Hi, I am Alex B. from the Clarkstown Recreation Department, and today we'll be tying a fly called the woolly bugger. This is an example of it right here. It's a great fly, and some of the tools we'll be using are a whip finisher. This is a bobbin threading, a hackle plier, and this is our bobbin, which we thread our fly with. First things first, the hook. We start with the number 6 hook. And I'll introduce the materials as I go along. Every fly starts with threading the hook. You want to start a good thread base so the fly material, once it's on the hook, does not move. You also won't be able to catch more than one fish on it. So I gently wind all the way down the entire shaft of the hook. The fly that I'm tying today, the woolly bugger, was invented in 1976 in Pennsylvania. They were trying to imitate the larva of a Dobson fly. But the great thing about this fly, it imitates so many different creatures. It could be a leech, a sculpin, a crayfish. Get to the end, tag that off. Since this is a subsurface fly, we have to add some weight to it. What I have here is some wire. It's not lead. Lead's been outlawed in New York, California. You can't use it anymore. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to gently wrap this non-lead wire around the hook. This will make sure that it stays below the surface. All right, grab our scissors. It's a nice soft malleable material. Snip it off. And then we could rewrap over it with our thread. Great. Now we can grab our whip finisher. I like to add this to the mix because it adds stability to the fly. It ties a simple overhand knot for you so nicely. Now to add strength to the fly, we'll add a little bit of epoxy. A little bit. Now, as far as the materials, this is going to be the tail. This is a marabou stork feather from Africa. It's a big bird, 4.5-foot bird. And the feathers are wonderful because when they get wet in water, they undulate and they really look live. So I'm going to cut off a little bit of this stuff. You want the tail to be the length of the hook. So I measure it off like that. That's the length of the hook. Then I'm going to pinch the feathers here. I can rewrap that all the way down the body until I get to the tail. So out of the way. There's my length. Put it right there. I'm going to gently, you don't want to lock it down right away because it's got to be seated. When I get towards the tail end, there we have our tail. All this excess, I can just simply cut that off. Perfect. We always start with the tail on all flies. It's the same theme for every fly. I always do the tail first. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of crystal flash in. I'm going to do 2 pieces on each side. Snip that off right now. Then 1 more piece for the other side. There we go. Now this is a rooster cape. This is going to be the hackle. It's going to be palmered hackle from the tail all the way towards the head. So we got to tie this in now. I'm going to pick out, this is a size 6 hook, so you don't need too big of a hackle. Take a medium sized one, which would be towards the middle here. That looks like a good one. And I'll just hack that right off. This you tie in the tip first. Lay it across the fly. Just get that tip going in there. Great, now just let that hang off the back, out of the way. In the meantime, I have to grab some copper fine wire. This will add strength to the fly as well. And keep the hackled palmer from falling off. Okay. Tie in some fine wire. Gently nip off the fine wire here. Make sure that hook doesn't move anymore. There we go. Okay, last thing we have to add. Traditionally at chenille, I like to use mohair. It has a real buggy appearance. Tie that in towards the tail end. You can nip off this excess here we don't need. Then I'm just going to wind it forward towards the eye of the hook. Here's our whip finisher. Three whip finishes and it's all set. Put my wire, my thread out here on this. Now the first thing we're going to do is wrap the body. So this is a nice vise, and it's a rotational vise, so I can spin the vise and slowly cover up all that lead and underlying wraps. Great, now we're at the head. What I'm going to do is take a quick underhand wrap. Great. One more whip finish, because now we can do the hackle, which is when the fly gets really buggy looking. Okay, we need our hackle pliers for this. Grab the end of the hackle. with our pliers. Now it has a nice grip for us. And same thing, we're going to rotate around the body of our fly, letting those hackles stick out, look real buggy. And we will under wrap the hackles. And now we can snip off our rooster feather. Be careful not to cut your line, your twine. I'm going to pull the hairs back so I can gently get a little top going there. It slipped out of the vise for a second there. Let's get back in there. Two more whip finishes. And like I said, this is a great fly because it imitates so many things. You can use it almost any time of year. It's not a hatch specific fly. And here we go with our fine gold wire. We're going to go between the hackles, and this will help strengthen that very fine rooster feather, the hackles, so they don't just get ripped apart. And we finish off at the head there. I can snip that wire. Looks pretty buggy. And we're just about done, but every fly needs its head to be cemented. So I'm going to wrap a fine head up to the hook eye. And give it our final whip finish. That's our final cut with the scissors. Last thing we add to it is a little bit of epoxy for the head. Make sure that does not come apart. Just a little dab to ensure this fly that you spent some time on won't fall apart once you get your first fish on it. And that's the woolly bugger, the ubiquitous woolly bugger. You can use year-round, catches lots of different species, not just bass and trout, but crappie, tiger muskie, pike, anything, because it represents so many things. So next time when I come fly tie for you, I'm going to be showing you a bug that's absolutely essential right now. It's the early brown stonefly. So hope to see you next time. Thank you.